Hi everyone, and welcome to this video. This is a Math OD1 video, Chapter 3, Section 3, and we're working through word problems that pertain to simple interest. So, if you recall, in our previous video, we introduced some vocabulary. So we have I, our simple interest, we have P, our principal, R, our interest rate, and T, which is the amount of time over which interest is accrued. And we're going to be using this formula I is equal to PRT in order to answer these questions. So let's get started. A television costs $900. So that is going to be our principal. That's the initial cost of this thing. The store gives Ray credit calculated with simple interest at 30% over 2 years. So our interest rate is 30%. Our time is 2 years. Remember, your time always has to be measured in years. Now, this is the part that's a little bit different. The question is not asking what is the simple interest. The question is asking how much does he pay for his television. So, how much he pays for his television is actually the cost of the TV plus the amount of interest, I. So once we find I, we're going to have to do one more step to get the total cost of the television. So let's get started. We can use this equation, I is equal to PRT. So we have 900 times 0.3 times 2. And then we can type that into a calculator. And we find out that Ray is going to have to pay $540 in interest if he's going to pay a 30% interest rate. So, what is the total cost of the TV? Well, the cost of the TV is $900. The amount of interest is $540. So to find the final answer for this problem, we need to add those two together. And we find out that when we add $900 and the interest of $540, he ends up paying $1,440 total for the television. Let's do another problem. This one asks, what annual simple interest rate is necessary for an investment to grow from 200 to 270 in 2 years? So this is interesting because we're being asked to find a different variable. We're not being asked to find the interest, but the interest rate R. So as we write our letters, we have I, we have P, we have R, and we have T. The R value, the interest rate, is going to be the unknown. So let's keep going. It's going to grow from 200, so it's going to start at 200. So 200 is our principal. And then it's going to grow to 270. So how can I figure out my simple interest using 200 and 270? Well, the amount of interest here, I, is my end amount minus my starting amount. So to calculate the amount of interest that was collected or gained from my investment, I have to take 270 and subtract 200. So my interest is $70. So notice there's a little bit more work involved here. Okay, and then lastly we have our time. Our time is 2 years. So now we can finally start plugging things into our equation. So again, our principal is 200. Our interest rate is unknown, so I'm going to just leave that as R. Our time is 2 years. And the amount of interest that we want to have is $70. So let's start simplifying this. 200 times 2 is 400. So then I can just divide both sides by 200. And you can find out that the amount, the interest rate is 0.175. Okay, and usually we write that as a percent, so that becomes 17.5%. All right, let's do another problem. This one is asking how much time it will take for an investment of $3,000 to double in value if the annual simple interest rate is 20%. So let's go through our variables. We have I, we have P, we have R, and we have T. Okay? So the thing that they're asking us to find is the time. So we know that the T is going to be our variable. Okay? Then we know that our investment is $3,000. And then we know that we want it to double in value. So remember our interest, our total amount of interest is our end amount minus our starting amount. Okay, we know that we're starting with $3,000. So if 3,000 doubles in value, what does that mean? Well, that means that you end up with $6,000. So how much interest is that? Well, we have $6,000 minus $3,000. So that means that our goal is to get $3,000 in interest. Okay, lastly, we have an annual simple interest rate of 20% or 0.20. So now we can start plugging things in to our equation. So remember, we want to have $3,000 in interest, and we have a $3,000 principal, and our rate is 20%, and our time is what's unknown right now. So what is 20% of 3,000? Well, that's 600. So we have 3,000 is equal to 600t. So we can divide both sides by 600. And we find out that it would take 5 years for our investment to double, assuming that we have a 20% interest rate.